It's nice that we're on topic here. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. All right, still says waiting for the PolyCast. Waiting. Oh! All right, now we're live.
All right. Hello, Internet. Welcome to episode 302 of PolyCast, a Civilization podcast focused on game strategy. I'm Jason Mega Bears fan with your regular hosts, Dan Q.
And the Internet says hello to you.
The me and team.
Always improving. Always.
Makalua.
Skype on my computer says no, but Skype on my phone is fine, apparently. Okay, then.
And our super special guest host, Timothy.
Welcome from the Great White North.
Now we've got two Canadians on here again.
Man.
Wait a minute.
TeamSpeak, I must count as half a Canadian or something.
Wait,
Well,
super special. Jason, I'm not really certain you've been around long enough to be starting giving titles to guests.
Upgrades?
Yeah.
Super special for him because
really...
it's his first guest as a regular.
Oh, he's made it all about him. Oh, you are a member of the Internet. Okay. Wait, there are
That's
other
how
people.
it works. The only confusion is that it wasn't about me, but otherwise it's pretty close.
Are you saying that you and Jason are almost the same person? Is that what's happening right now?
I wasn't saying that, but that's a possibility.
Well, Dan, I don't think you've ever seen me and Phil in the same place at the same time, have you?
No. You are the same person, confirmed. Yeah, Pixar
Phil's
doesn't
just
count.
using a pitch changer.
I have to say though, I would not pick the same sports team, but other than that, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, at this point, neither would I if I could do it all over again. So.
Oh.
Well, that's what I was saying until the Eagles pulled one out of their butts this year. But hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Well, there goes another sponsorship potential for the show. I'll add it to the list. Just a sec.
Yeah. The NFL's gonna sponsor us. That's
Yeah.
true.
PolyCast, the official podcast of the NFL. And now we're going to get sued.
Everyone would be like, "What the heck?" Could you imagine? What is PolyCast? All the football.
No. He said we were we said we were the official podcast of the NFL, which is Natural Fruit Loops.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
They're now organic.
There's probably at least one NFL player that would recognize us. Maybe.
That's a
Statistically.
pretty. I like this presumption. I do. I do. I'm gonna go with this. I like this.
Oh, there are a couple thousand. I'm not talking about star players here. It just takes one random guy on a practice squad to play Civ and never heard the show once, and that counts. It's good enough.
I played football in high school, so I can confirm that there are, in fact, people who play football and play Civilization. So
well, if that counts, then we have two on the show right now. Very nice. Okay. So I also played football in high school.
there you go.
Don't make it to the NFL kids. You can make it onto the Civ podcast.
Well,
That's right.
it's a small step up from high school football to the NFL.
Yeah, tiny. I mean,
For that matter, it's a small step up from high school football to college football.
yeah, I barely missed the NFL draft. Just barely. From my high school practice squad team to the NFL was just a tiny little skip.
I mean, I was drafted, but I had to go to the PolyCast for the superior position.
That's right.
Perhaps we should actually start talking
Well.
about six, unfortunately. Or maybe fortunately. We'll see, because we have some new patch notes. And it's like Ozymandias brought this to us first. Yeah, his 9891 at the end of the name. There you go. Ozymandias 9891. So, yep, we got another update. Couple tweaks here for the expansion. I don't know if I want to go through the whole list. Is there anything you feel is particularly nice to emphasize, Dan?
Yeah, yes, I do. I agree. Going through the entire list is not worth our time, really.
Yeah.
But and you can certainly look at that over. It's linked to from Civilization.com. It's part of the Steam community. It's on Civilization Fanatics Center. It's probably also been reported by your mom at this point, because everyone has the patch. So it was released on the 8th of March. It's about 80 megabytes, and if you are downloading the patch, you probably already have the patch before you realized it was being downloaded. And remembering the dial-up days, that just still sounds kind of strange that you would download something that was 80 megabytes and not even realize it. But there it is. It was preceded by a YouTube video on the Sid Meier's Civilization official YouTube channel by franchise lead designer Ed Beach. That is how he is described in the description. That's the first time I've seen, and certainly anything official, describing him as the lead designer for the franchise, although we've pretty well known that for a few years now anyway. It's good to have that acknowledgement. But from the patch from the patch notes itself, general updates added a new historic moment for being the second or later civilization to discover a natural wonder, +1 era score. Thank you.
A little bit of less like immediate Dark Age, although it's still not easy, but it's a little easier to avoid the classical Dark Age. And you could before too, but this just takes a little bit of the edge off of it if you're able to explore.
A little disappointed that I don't see any historic moment for building a national park, because that seems like something that deserves it. But
Since they are so rare in the game.
yeah, there's national. One of my pet peeves with the game is how insanely difficult it is to actually build a national park. So that definitely warrants a historic moment in my book.
No polders for you, or maybe a few more this patch. We'll get there.
And the note about the national park might come up in another topic, as a matter of fact. But I like seeing this +1 era score for being the second or later. It's similar to, for example, every single time you meet a civilization, you're getting +1 era score. Once you meet all civilizations, you will get +3 era score unless you were the first to do it, and it gives you +5. So it's still going to be an historic moment for your people that you have discovered a natural wonder, even if you weren't the first to receive it. So not only is it consistent but for gameplay, but it's also realistic. Unit experience gained from fighting free cities and free city units is now capped at +1 after obtaining the unit's first promotion.
Oh, no farming?
Nope.
Yeah, no farming.
Is there a cap
No
for
farming.
Can't
there
you
a
just
cap
farm
for
off a
barbs?
city-state? There's a cap for barbs, yes. Actually, since vanilla.
Yep.
I don't think city-states are capped, though. So
No, they're
I
not.
don't
No.
see why. Like, I don't see the reasoning to cap this when city-states aren't.
I think one of the reasons is probably because there's a maybe sort of exploit where you can capture an independent city, and then if your
lose it
loyalty is really
intentionally.
low, and then lose it like 5 turns later because you're getting like -15 or -20 loyalty per turn, and then just capture it again, which you can't do. Well, I guess you could do it with the city-state too if the loyalty's that low, but I mean, as a general rule, that wasn't applicable for city-states prior to the expansion. So it
I
might
heard
just be something that
city-states
they
could
just-
become free cities rather than city-states.
Yes, it is possible for the loyalty pressure to be applied to the city-state and for it to become a free city and then be absorbed by another civilization. Yes, that is possible because they have the loyalty mechanic too. It's rare, but it is possible. Yes.
Well, if you're conquering it, though, that would be less rare.
Do city-states generate their own loyalty? Because I don't think I've ever seen pressure from city-states.
They don't, but they
No.
can get flipped.
Yes, they can receive loyalty pressure, but they don't exert loyalty pressure themselves.
Oh, then there's got to be something else going on there under the hood that just stops every city-state from flipping independent. Because if they're just getting pressure and not generating their own, then
I think they generate loyalty, but don't generate pressure.
oh,
Yeah, they're generating their own loyalty. It's just that you don't have to worry about your city flipping to become part of an extended city-state empire, air quotes.
Because governors are like that too, like aside from Amani, but the other ones will generate loyalty, but putting them in your city will not cause your city to exert more pressure.
Yeah. Elsewise, in general updates, ranged units garrisoned in a city are now always considered to be in an elevated position if the city has walls or urban defenses.
Buffing
Which-
walls and archers a bit, okay, whatever.
Yeah. There is also remove the flirtatious and curmudgeon agendas. For those listing,
Aw.
the
Small
flirtatious
bonus.
was being friendly to members of the opposite sex, and curmudgeon has no time for alliances with members of the opposite sex, which was kind of always humorous. It's I'm playing a civilization that has a female leader, but I'm not female, yet this agenda has now been applied to me. Question mark? I mean, maybe it's quote-unquote realistic because, there are definitely sexists out there in the past and in the present. But I agree that really didn't have a place in the game. That's a good change.
It's pretty hard to make a case that that's realistic.
Yeah, that's something that's
at
more
the
appropriate
Civ
for,
leader level.
Yeah, that's something that's more appropriate for like a Total War or a Crusader Kings or Paradox game where you're actually playing as a dynasty of specific characters rather than as the state.
Especially the state over like 1,000 years or more.
Yeah.
But warriors don't read books.
Sword is stronger. Well, that said, too, they're like the agendas really could use work because a lot of the quote-unquote playstyles under the agendas amount to game throwing. Not all of them. Some of them actually have reasonable focuses that can push you towards winning a victory, and those ones are a little better. But these are just straight-up dice rolls. Like, we're just going to hate this person more or less, regardless of realpolitik. Now, sometimes the other modifiers overcome that, but far too often for the AI, it just screws itself over this kind of stuff.
And it's one of those things that no matter what, you can't change that modifier.
Yeah.
A lot of the others you can based on your game style play.
Yeah, that's true. Even if the AI's behavior is throwing, the player themselves still has agency in terms of how that AI reacts with most of the others. It's true.
While play as alternate leader. Wait, what? And from the general updates, the kind of big item, not only to me, but I'm certain a lot of other people who, in particular, have been playing the Rise and Fall expansion for Civilization 6, but also Civilization 6 in general. We highlighted it on the last episode. It was pointed out to us in our comments on CFC in regards to episode 301. Increased defenses of early era city-states to discourage easy conquest by AI and players. I like the "and players." Yeah, that too. But especially...
It generally wasn't the players that were the big problem.
Yeah, players could, though, and it was starting to become a little bit more common for players to start talking about snipe in the city-states. I know I mentioned it, but I'm not the only one who mentioned it. As in, like, let the AI wear down the hit points and take the city, Civ 4 style.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it.
I've done that a couple times.
Yeah.
For city-states nearby.
Does the human player get all of like the free units and stuff like that on the easier difficulties that the AI gets on the hard difficulties?
I don't think so. You don't really need them either, though, if you're playing on the really low ones.
Yeah, I've never played Civ 6 at any level lower than King, so I have no idea what the handicaps for like Settler and stuff like that are. So I don't know if you get like 5 free warriors and the player in that situation can wander around sniping
not quite to that
city-states.
extreme. I think you might get maybe a worker at start, maybe the extra settler down at Settler, but mostly your handicap is the AI doesn't get all those stupid bonuses.
On low difficulties, the AI gets hamstrung if you just look at the modifiers, but I don't know what the player gets because I haven't played below Emperor actually, but it's still you still have a huge advantage because the AI gets production penalties and tech research penalties and crap. So like. Yeah, it's not going to be very effective.
So I highlighted those last 2 changes from general updates as the big ticket items and the other ones as secondary. But I also have for general updates a question mark because it's in the patch notes, and while I'm looking for more of a description, I think this is more of a, well, we will see in time whether or not this is a good change or at least good enough. Rework the way that warmongering is handled between declaration of war capturing cities and raising cities. But it doesn't tell us how it was reworked. And even once we figure that out, I guess we'll have to play it again to see if it's better or not, or just,
I really hate that. I don't know. Like, you cannot determine that reasonably in-game, even now, and that's just not a respectable decision from a design perspective. That is a rule, unlike what the AI is going to do in X situation. How much penalty or bonus you get for doing X choice in a strategy game is a rule, but it really should be possible to just look in the game and clearly determine what the consequences of your action will be from a mechanical standpoint. I'm not okay with them not doing that.
It never gives you numbers for warmonger penalty ever. It's always just the, moderate, heavy, etc.
Yeah, and it also doesn't, when you mouse over to right-click shoot a unit, it doesn't tell you, oh, this is going to give you some warmongering, or how much warmongering. Or it doesn't, tell you overtly, that you're going to get less for shooting an enemy inside your own borders and other borders. This is all stuff that Victoria and other posters have found by looking in game files and experimenting. And actually, the game does log a hard number for your warmongering. You can find it in like a text file or some sort of file on your. If you are willing to open that while playing and then close it and reopen it as it's updating, you can actually tell, or it's in your save. It's in your save. You can actually tell how much warmongering you've accrued, but for some reason, the developers don't think that that's worth including in the game anywhere.
I
Even
didn't
off
even
the main
realize.
interface. Yeah.
I didn't even realize that killing units contributed to warmonger. I thought that only contributed to war wariness if you were losing a lot of units.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, war wariness, but warmonger is there too. Yeah, sorry, I was confusing the two. You're correct. You don't get warmonger for killing units. There's also some areas where you don't get warmonger. Like if you take a city in a peace deal, at least previously, you don't get warmonger. I mean, like if you never capture it, if they just give it to you in the peace deal, you don't get warmonger from that. So it's interesting to see what they'll do here. But yeah, that's really obnoxious. We don't know how these things work.
I mean, if we look at so far the history of patches to Civilization 6, I believe this, since the game came out, I believe this was about the 8th update to the game, and we can also look at the history of Civilization 5 updates, and part of me wants to say, well, we'll just wait for the next update, and we'll see if they actually give us a little bit more specifics on that, but unfortunately, history tells us that no, we're still going to be waiting a while for that information, and we'll just have to add that to the list of things that the game clearly takes into account and records, but doesn't make accessible to the player through the user interface. And yeah, to be able to, and you're right, yeah, you can go into the directory tree, find that file, and watch it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like, shoot, I guess at least you can do that. That's actually better in some respects than the notifications that so-and-so is upset with so-and-so because they're interfering with their agenda, and then that goes away. Clearly the game's keeping track of that because that's how you got the message in the first place, but you don't have access to a history of that information, but we are able to look at a history of our historic moments. So, maybe if we keep pressing away at Firaxis, maybe finally, or some modder out there will make it modder will make it available to us, number one, but of course if a modder makes it available to us, then probably the next update would break that mod, like it tends to break all mods, so we're just gonna go round and around and around and around.
I would guess this addresses some of the bugs, though, with warmongering. It might create new ones, but like there were certain CPs you could use where you would not get warmonger for taking AI cities. I think it was the Liberation CB or Protectorate War or something like that. It was actually possible to take cities, like just straight up take them with military units and get no warmonger for it because of a bug. But yeah, that's probably gone if they're reworking the mechanic entirely.
Sarah yesterday posted on Reddit a list of everything they changed for the penalties and their increases and decreases, and it was reported in CFC in the patches live on page 5.
And for those listening, Tim, who is Sarah in this context?
Sarah Darney from Firaxis. Marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. They're. I'm forgetting her formal title, but yes, she's kind of the head, if not the head of marketing. She's the kind of the liaison between the marketing department of Firaxis and the Civ community. All right. Balance changes. All right.
Oh yeah, Liberation War went from 0 to 100. And Protectorate War, there you go. So yes, that appears to have been fixed.
There you go. Thanks for mentioning that there, Tim. With balance changes, we mentioned the polder earlier. Allow the 3 land tiles next to the polder to include hills. And of course that's for the Netherlands. Added loyalty per turn to emergency target cities so that emergencies will no longer end in the members' favor without them doing anything.
That's quite nice because now you can do some aggressive plays on the capital depending on how much. Like I would love to see it say how much here, at least for normal speed, and then adjusted for whatever. But it would be nice to know because like if that's plus 10 versus plus 2. It changes what you would do, and again, no easy way to know in advance without testing it. But yeah, if it's like plus 10 loyalty or something, you can actually get stuff where you can hold that city where you would otherwise not be able to hold that city, and it applies pressure, so you can actually do run bys and take a capital, trigger the emergency, and yeah.
Yes. Otherwise, military alliances now provide a bonus against city-states. Have Twilight Valor applied to naval melee units. Twilight Valor is one of your Dark Age policies that gives +5 combat strength for all melee attack units, but cannot heal outside your own territory. But it will now apply to naval melee units as well as land-based ones, although based on the description, that is something that should have been in the game from the beginning, because it said all units.
Yeah.
All units, which would include... So they're just... I wouldn't say that's... It's not really so much a bug, but it was just kind of a... It was... Clearly by this balance change, that's what they intended it to be, and the text reflected that, but the game did not reflect that. So now
I think it's fair to call any time the UI implies something the game state doesn't do as a bug. That's just as a standard policy.
Either
it gets really tiresome.
Either the rule is wrong or the UI is wrong.
Yeah, and both of those should be considered bugs, in principle and in practice.
Speaking of in principle and in practice, Macedon no longer received boosts for conquering a free city. So, no more Eureka for each encampment or campus in the conquered city, and an inspiration for each holy site or theater, not from a free city. Nope, nope, nope.
Well, I think that's to avoid those chains that you were talking about earlier, only with the Macedon bonus, right? So you can repeatedly lose and retake a city for a bonus.
Yeah, no more steamrolling by Macedon.
Well, I'm sure they'll still be steamrolling. It just you won't be able to repeatedly conquer the same city for the lulz and get the bonus.
Interesting that they do put that under balance changes, but they have the change to England repeatedly capturing independent cities is listed under bug fixes.
Maybe the original one wasn't?
That's interesting.
Yes.
I don't know. I think there was a lot more player angst toward the England thing than the Macedon thing. So maybe that was just kind of. We feel we should put that higher up on the list in the changes, and balance changes appear in the patch notes before bug fixes. I don't know.
Maybe doesn't seem to be any people making the entries and then deciding that differently as to where it would go. Yeah.
Yeah. I could see like a cross-reference, where it would be listed under a balance change and a bug fix, but seeing as how it's to an existing civilization and how it's interacting with the mechanics, yeah, to me it makes sense to put it in the same category, or indeed same categories. But speaking of balance changes, the last one I want to point out, and I think this is the best change under balance changes, which is added the entertainment complex building effects. Sorry, you know what? I misread that. I thought they were saying that they changed the entertainment complex building effects, but maybe that's something still to come. So anyway, we're just going to ignore that now that I realize I misread that. Artificial intelligence updates. There's a blooper. Garrison ranged units are much less likely to leave city centers and encampments. So again, this is a question mark to me. What does that mean? I don't just mean an absolute number. In this case, situationally, what does that mean? In other words, they're more likely. They would be more likely to leave the city center and encampment if there isn't an enemy unit nearby. Or because that would make more sense, because then we don't have to worry about keeping in the city in order to add to the bombard capability, plus not worrying about increasing the likelihood that you're going to get your garrison range unit squashed by an enemy unit. So it's better, but I don't know how much better. I guess it's an improvement
I'm okay
regardless.
With this being big, though, because it's what your competitors are opting to do in a situation. The only thing is here, like when I read it, I just raise an eyebrow, because it might actually improve the quality of the AI play, or it might not. But as long as it does, like, whatever. Okay.
I've seen the AI on many occasions have like an archer or crossbowman or whatever inside of a city, and then I roll up to invade the city, and they move it outside of the city, and then I kill it, and now I'm only getting one bombardment from the city itself, and it becomes easy to take. So I'm assuming that's what they're talking about, and
it seems to be a lot better since the patch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And now we can maybe add to that in a future patch. AI will not start constructing an encampment on a hex currently occupied by an enemy unit, or at least complete the encampment. I've seen that. It's like I'm in the middle of a war, and all of a sudden I'm on an encampment hex. Oh, they just finished the encampment that I'm currently parked on. Well, thank you.
Pillage it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, are you allowed to, or are you like forced to move off the tile?
No, you just stay there. You're not forced to move off the tile. You get to stay right there.
I don't think you can pillage it either. You just
you can't.
Oh, that's true.
And once you move off it, it becomes a working encampment.
Yep.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
can
you
hold it
just
down,
sit there.
basically.
I think I would rather see it changed so that you're allowed to build the encampment there, but the unit that's on that tile is forced to move off because I don't want because of the way that districts work, like they're permanent and the placement of them matters. I wouldn't want to see a situation where you cannot build your encampment in a place where it's worthwhile to build because the enemy is just standing on that tile.
And see, I kind of look at it the opposite. I think that if you've got an enemy unit that is on that hex, that enemy unit is going to prevent the encampment from being completed.
But I don't think that doesn't work for any other district, and I don't even think it's the case that standing in foreign terrain denies them the yield anymore the way it used to.
It
You
probably
can still
should,
work the
though.
tile. So if without those rules in the game, I don't think that the encampment should be this special exception where, oh, that one district now you can't place there because of this rule. If it were more globally applied, I'd be okay with it. But
Yeah, I would definitely go in the globally apply range.
Yes,
Like, you don't work tiles with enemy units. You don't build any type of building, wonder, district, anything on a hex with an enemy unit. I mean, by enemy unit, I mean a unit that is at war with you in your territory on the tile in question. So basically, your city can't interact with that. And that would also solve this problem, because you would not be able to complete any district while a unit is standing on it, because you would just have your production towards that frozen until they move off.
Correct.
So, yeah.
I'd be okay with that. I'm just not okay with the encampment being the one district that works differently than everything else.
I agree with you there. That there's no, like, that's a straight up inconsistency that doesn't make a lot of sense mechanically.
It's just also like being given the option to, say, repair a district that an enemy unit is still on. Why? I mean, why would you do that? Why? Well, don't give the AI that option. Block that from happening. No human player who's really thinking about it is ever going to do that because, oh, please, thank you for repairing it. I'm going to go ahead and pillage it again. Thanks for the added science from the campus you just repaired. No.
Well, I guess if you're expecting the war to be over or that unit to be dead by the time the repair is actually finished, because repairing does take a long time. It's not like you're doing it instantly. So
well, it depends on game speed.
Yeah.
What about
but I mean,
MP exploits? You could have you could be at war with each other, right? And you have some mines, and your worker just repairs the mine. Then your quote unquote enemy pillages the mine, and you repair the mine, and then they're doing it as well. And it's a lot of science.
Yes, we're definitely talking about a cooperative game here, hence the air
Yeah.
quote enemy description from Phil.
That's
could
a lot.
in principle do this in an MP free-for-all, but I think you'd get kicked for it because
Right.
it's pretty questionable.
Well, that's
straight
a
up
lot
collusion.
less. That's a lot less objectionable, I think, in Civ 6 than it was in like Civ 5 because your builders do expend. Oh no, wait, because repairing
They don't.
doesn't charge.
No,
does it?
you can repair
No.
forever like this. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Was that a rule that changed when the game first came out? Did repairing expend a charge? Because I could have
No.
sworn
I
I don't think so. I
No,
don't
it
think
never
so.
did.
Doing
It never did.
Because
Or maybe-
otherwise, like, you could get into a situation where you wouldn't be able to repair your tiles because of how much production your workers cost, and it would just be bad.
Well, but I mean, if
So-
you don't have a builder already in play, then that same problem emerges. But
It does, but not to the extent. Because, like, if you have 20 pillaged tiles or something, like, then you would need just as many workers as you did the first time to replace them. It would just be awful. Just awful.
right, you'd have to build multiple builders instead of just one.
And pillage runs would be such a hit to hammers on anyone. Like, it would be it would be a different game for sure. But I don't know if it would be a better game. And I guess Firaxis agrees with me on that one.
I think it was just the case that I was afraid of repairing because I thought it was going to expend a build charge and there was something else I wanted to build. So, like, it just set in my mind when I first started playing vanilla that, oh, nope, building consumes a charge. And it was actually true.
I felt the same way initially. I experimented with it early on, though. But yeah, I was also concerned about that the first time I got pillaged.
All right, so my two takeaways from part of this aside is A, Jason is starting to take responsibility. Second, not really, but to kind of bring it full circle to the notion of being able to complete a district. I just find the encampment all the more extreme because in particular, I think it should apply to all districts, but especially in an encampment, it's like, hey guys, we're currently on this hex. The enemy is completing their encampment, which can bombard against us. Oh, bring it on! Like, no, but it's also consistent to prevent that, given the fact that when you have units surrounding the city is now under siege and it cannot heal during that time, right? So it seems like because that's in there, this just feels like something that was missed in the tuning. So, Firaxis, you are welcome for the advice. We will not charge you. again. Just, keep that in mind. Under user interface updates now from the patch notes, I'll start with the two minor ones, relatively speaking. Governor promotion buttons will now use the disabled state properly for promotions we don't have the prerequisites to earn. That's good that the user interface reflects that you make it very clear to you that no, this is not available to you yet.
Yeah.
Also, adding alliance icons to tech tree nodes so players know what their level 3 research alliance members are researching. Yes, thank you. That's just kind of okay, we've gotten to level 3 with a research alliance, and so what is it that you're currently doing right now? It's good. Also, added tooltips for a variety of loyalty UI, and I include that as one amongst the better changes because the loyalty mechanic is new for all of us, regardless how long we've been playing Civilization 6, or quite frankly, as Civilization players, that information is available as a tooltip within the UI, unlike some other things we've pointed out that currently are not. But my favorite one is perhaps made sure we displayed the right city details for cities being seeded. We really do appreciate that. That really... I'm like, wait, that's a UI update? You mean that's a bug fix, right? But okay, fine, whatever.
In many cases, they're the same thing.
The user interface is a giant bug that must be squished. Therefore, no user interface. Fixed. Working as intended. I just strung all those things together.
Tell me that the UI is not important. I'm like, well, try and play with no UI at all. Go ahead, try it.
Yeah.
Give that one a go.
I'm pretty sure that's called your imagination.
Yeah.
Bug fixes. Although I put this
there's a lot with any UI that works, including this game. Like, there's a lot of awful things about the UI in this game, but you can still play the game. We're not saying that you can't.
No, we're saying that you should. No, just kidding. Bug fixes. Bug fixes. Fixed an issue preventing water natural wonders from appearing on huge maps. Well, I mean, on some huge maps, you might be like, oh, well, it's a huge Pangea map, whatever, but it's a huge Island Plates map. Where are the water-based Yeah.
Where's that? Where's Galapagos? Where's all these other things that should be there? Hold on.
Yep. I think what this is really telling us is that Firaxis recognized they were sizist because it was only on huge maps. Yeah, and they're addressing that prejudice. There we go.
Did they actually, test huge maps? Sometimes I wonder.
I mean, it does...
don't think...
Well...
I'm going to guess probably not, because considering how long it takes to play, just a single-player game on a huge map, no.
Yeah,
they have to run through a lot of iterations for development.
Of course, just the wording of this, it says it fixed an issue preventing them. It doesn't mean that they will actually appear, though. It just means that they're not prevented from appearing. Lol.
Well, they just said an issue. There might still be other issues that prevent them from appearing as well, technically. They just fixed that. They fixed at minimum one issue that prevents
the one they found.
natural wonders from appearing, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like it's fixed all issues or anything like that, so,
Yeah, either this and we're really onto something, or we're just giving them too much credit in their word choice, or lack thereof. I don't know which it is. Either way, it's humorous.
You just like to overanalyze everything, Dan.
Let me think about that for a second, and I'll get back to you. Fixed a bug that was causing embarked units to use their embark strength instead of their unit strength when conducting an amphibious attack.
That's nice. I remember that being a major frustration when I was playing as Australia and I was trying to figure out whether or not the Digger was a worthwhile unit to build.
Spam warriors attack with embarked warriors.
We already mentioned the Pax Britannia unique ability point. Fixed a bug causing the player to be charged an incorrect amount when purchasing a district with gold. Well... The fact that you've gotten to the point of purchasing a district with gold, good for you, but yes, you should be charged the correct amount. Speaking of amphibious attack, amphibious unit promotion is now correctly removing the attack penalty in an amphibious attack. Oh, fixed a bug causing incorrect unit maintenance costs to be incurred. I want to know how long this was happening, and I want compensation in my game.
Yeah, restitution even.
Restitution, dipshit. What? just for my.
Dan's favorite
Oh,
line.
hey, look, they claim they fixed the alert bug again.
Yes, fixing a bug causing units set to alert to be changed to fortified, preventing them from waking up when enemies are near.
How many
Have
times
anything
has
more
the alert
fun?
bug been fixed? Supposedly.
Still not 100%.
So they fixed a.
I mean,
Okay,
allegedly. How many times has it allegedly been fixed?
so once again,
Every patch?
Something like that.
I think we're onto something here. They fixed a bug, not the bug, or all the bugs. They fixed a bug.
That's true. They've learned that might not be all the bugs.
They should fix all the bugs in the game before they add any more content. Okay.
That's
So
not gonna happen.
therefore, no more content. Sorry. I think that's what I just said.
There are extreme ends of either spectrum, and they are presently on. The content is more important than the game working extreme side of things. I've seen worse. They're not paradox, but at the same time, they're definitely on that side and could do with a little bit more emphasis on the game working over new content, for sure. But you can go too far in this direction also, and have your game die out. That can happen, and you make less money that way too. So from a business standpoint, that's not such a good model.
Historic moment for recapturing a city you originally founded can now only trigger once per plot location to prevent an exploit where it could be farmed for era score. So I guess that means if you're playing as England and London, which was it's always your capital, Birmingham. So I guess if you want to get another historic moment for recapturing Birmingham, you'll have to have a second Birmingham that was placed at a different plot location, which means this will never happen with the AI because they love to go back to the spot where this city was already raised a number of turns before and try again. Why?
Well, it's for a city you originally founded. I don't make a habit of losing cities I originally founded if I can help it.
Yeah, but I mean, you want those historic moments, right? I mean, it sounds like a pro strat.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you only have to spend one settler for it and you can just keep losing it and retaking it over and over again for infinite era score and like 2 military units, that might be worth it. But if you actually have to settle in different plots or whatever, then not so good, because now you need to use multiple settlers to achieve this, which is expensive. And there's easier ways of getting lots of era score than that, for sure, from a production standpoint. So,
Yes. Yeah, which would then someone say, well, you can get more era score, which then allow you to stay out of a dark age into a normal age, or a normal age into a golden age. But yeah, again, the production that you're having to spend in order to get that, when you could be spending the production considerably less than that and getting the same era score, just makes it a no-brainer. Preserve proper number of government slots after liberating a city with a wonder that provides slots. Thank you. And also, ensure that city-state suzerain bonuses are applied properly after you capture a city. I've read this several times. Okay, so the city-state suzerain bonuses are being applied properly after you capture a city. So you're already a suzerain of a city-state, you're getting these bonuses, you capture another city, and there was an issue where you might no longer be getting those suzerain bonuses. Is that
I'm guessing what it means is in the city that you capture. So
Yeah,
if you're the suzerain of like one of those city states that gives you like plus production or culture or something like that on a coastal tile, and you capture another city that's on the coast, I think what was happening was you weren't being given that bonus right away. Like you probably had to go to the next turn or something like that before any of it was applied.
Sometimes you don't even get it at all.
All right. So ensure that city-state suzerain bonuses are applied properly to cities that you capture. Okay. All right. Now I get it.
That's what I'm guessing it means. Assuming.
All right. Oh, that makes sense. Speaking of looking after your cities properly.
Oh yeah, governors, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Dan can insert that thing from the actual movie here because I'm not going to try to sing that.
Translation from Mackie. Dan, you still don't do enough around here. Can you
Yeah,
get this clip?
Yeah, could you?
Hey, she's asking you to sing. How often does that
No,
happen?
I didn't ask him.
Actually-
I put the clip from the movie bit,
Oh.
not sing.
No, but sorry, there are probably rights issues with that, Mackie, which means I will have to sing it in the end because we don't have to worry about rights issues there. So,
Unless you're on YouTube, then you might still have to. There's that one guy who got like takedown or copyright struck for like music he originally produced. So
Yeah, and we're already being
Wait,
sued by the
what?
NFL anyway, so
that's true.
So Lord Yananek over on CFC had started a thread about all this where he was rating the governors. So, start with Victor the Castellan only gets a C plus because he's situationally useful. It's like,
he really emphasizes, that essentially if you get double declare of ward early and happen to have a governor promotion available, I'm not disagreeing actually with the C plus, only because he's definitely useful in a situation where either you've got the declaration of war and you're worried about trying to have some kind of added strength for that city defense, but to me Victor's real initial power is the fact that he can move more quickly. He can move in 3 turns instead of 5. So if you're needing that extra loyalty pressure for, say, a city that you've just captured, then
You don't. You get the loyalty immediately from any governor, though, and you don't apply pressure unless it's a Mani. You just get loyalty, pressure resistance. You get loyalty generated.
this guy's rating
So-
is probably also going to be very dependent on what difficulty level you're playing the game at. Because if you're at a really high difficulty level where the AIs are just unreasonably aggressive, then he's going to be more valuable than if you're playing on, like, Warlord or Prince.
Yeah.
even if you're somewhere in the middle, he's also useful when you have a city that's border and either you're going to go in there at some point, but this way, even if they attack you first, you've got him there in that city and you can fight them back while your army comes over.
Yeah, it's especially in MP games, it might be a deterrent. I don't know if the AIs
Yeah.
will recognize, oh, there's a governor in there that's going to make that city harder to take. I'm not going to take it yet, but, other players will definitely be able to see it and, could be a deterrent.
At least give you some more time because they'll tell themselves, maybe I should build more units.
Yeah. Well, he is nice situational. The especially the unit buff on cities you're defending can be very nice when you're defending, because the AI will still attack you a lot. So, like, if you take a city, position your units, and then you're stacking oligarchy and stuff on this, it can be helpful in the early game, especially. But most of the time, other governors will give you more. But he's okay. I'm okay with the C+ grade. Especially because, like, if you're conquering a lot of cities or whatever, and you're progressing through the civics tree decently, you'll get numbers of governors available, and it could be worth just to pick him up.
Yeah, I'm okay with the C+ rating in that I feel like he's, like, between D and B, so...
Yeah,
Depending on the game, he's either a D or he's a B, so...
I think it's closer to a B than a D. And yes, the immediate benefit of the governors is that when they're assigned to a city, there's the loyalty pressure. There's just you're not going to get their individual effects until it's assigned. All right, next.
Amani the diplomat who gets a B because he thinks she's not a bad governor, but not a great governor, and a rather awkward one as her abilities are. Some of her abilities are always useless. The AIs love to use it early, but that's not the governor he wants his first one. I have seen that. The AI almost, not always, but a lot of the time will take her, if not as their first, as their second, and stick her in the city-states. Which is
They
usually
want the suzerain bonus early, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being very disappointed that I couldn't put her in independent cities. Because I was hoping to try to flip an independent city.
Yeah.
And I found that it doesn't seem like you could do that. And I was like, oh, well, now I don't really know what the heck I'm supposed to be using some of these powers for. Because I thought that was the use case for it, but apparently not.
It's certainly one of those things where if you haven't met a city-state yet, don't take her. Also, If
She's one of the few that actually applies loyalty pressure. Although the +2 isn't that much. You're usually better served by growing cities, so you can make a case for Magnus there instead.
Yeah, I
We'll
could
get
maybe
there.
see using her if someone's like actively forward settling you and you want to try to flip their cities. Then yeah, you take the thing that generates extra pressure, and that might be something that's useful early in the game.
If there's really a city-state that you want to lock down as yours, and also be keeping in mind your ability to protect them, especially if you get to her final tier, which doubles the number of envoys that she has, then in that case, if you're really competing with a city-state and you're not worried about it being taken, then it can be useful to put a Manny there first to help you get those bonuses that you would be getting, of course, so long as you're not at war with them, and then to get to that point. So I think B is good because her abilities, I know he says that some of her abilities will always be useless. I don't think they would always be useless. I think her abilities are very strong, which makes her kind of almost like an A- to me, but because it's situational to what's going on in the game itself, it's kind of like looking for the forest for the trees. I think B and smack like dead center at B, not even a B+ or a B-. I think that's spot on for most of what you'll experience in the game.
Another fun use that I found for her is rapidly expanding the borders of city-states, especially ones that are neighboring, another player. If you want to deny tiles to them, you throw her into that city-state and then get all those nearby tiles claimed. Because I think the number of tiles that a city-state owns is a function of how many emissaries it has. So throw like half a dozen more emissaries in there, and now, other civilization, you wanted that iron that was 2 tiles away from that city-state. Well, you ain't getting it.
The third governor on the list, as outlined by our topic starter.
Yeah, Moksha the Cardinal, which has kind of 2 ratings, because in a normal game, C-, but A for religious victory. Because this is his entire specialty, is making your religion grow faster and put more pressure and everything like that. So it does make sense, because he is literally a 1 victory governor.
And as he points out, never bother them unless you want the loyalty bonus. It's kind of one of those things where, okay, I've got the other 7 governors in place, and of course 6 of them are in cities that I own, obviously not in Manny because she's in a city-state, and I really don't want to move any of those other governors around for whatever reason, and I really need the loyalty pressure from this new city I've built or this new city that I've captured. Oh, let's put Moksha there, because then they'll be giving us that loyalty pressure. The comment about being very good for a religious victory, yes, for the patron saints, which apostles trained in the city receive 1 extra promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and as he describes, double promotion means you get twice as many apostles with the good promotions. He says, but I would make sure to keep it by promoting. Sorry, I'm reading something else. But yeah, I think that's also well stated. It really is the one governor that is not just good for
specialized to win victory.
Specialized, like really, really good. Really, really good for that 1 victory condition, which I guess in some respects it's fair then to say they're below average for anything else. If they're really good for that one thing, then that's what they're specializing in. And it's good that they're good for that purpose. As someone, and I know I'm not the only one on this panel that is not someone for a religious victory, or even more generally really doing anything with the religion mechanics, this is the governor that gets adopted last, which also means that he is constantly appearing in my historic timeline as being the final one that is adopted for the +1 error score, which in a few edge cases, it's like, I could avoid a Dark Age if I get 1 more error score. I could promote this governor, but let's actually go ahead and get Moksha, even if they're just kind of sitting around and doing nothing to go into a city. Oh, that sounds terrible. I'm really not helping their case at all for being in the game, but there it is.
I mean, just putting a governor in a city has some benefits, so having an extra one available isn't bad, especially if you have a large empire in the end game. Just putting someone there could be nice.
Having a game with Moksha in a Russian Civ with Yerevan and Jerusalem in is overpowered by far. That's my last game I just finished. I won a religious victory with Russia.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, Jerusalem, where it acts as another holy site for you. And yeah.
Yeah, it was, and Jerusalem was smack dab in the middle of the other continent.
Wow.
Oh, so yeah.
It
So
was one of those situations where it was insane.
I could also maybe see this guy as being useful in a situation where there's an AI or an opponent that's steamrolling towards a religious victory, and you just need to slow them down, or make sure that you keep your religion a majority in your cities. I can maybe see this guy being useful as well. So not just for getting a religious victory yourself, but also maybe for countering other players' potential religious victories. Yeah.
And of course, if you're playing Congo, Moksha is completely useless.
Minus their loyalty pressure. Come on now.
Oh.
Yeah. Definitely last is Congo.
No love from Congo.
Yeah, I mean,
you founded a religion and it's been one turn. Why haven't you sent it to me yet?
I kind of feel like, generally speaking, in your games, like a Manny would be someone that I would be adopting somewhere between the early and the mid game. Moksha would probably be mid to the later game. Whereas this next one, and Victor is kind of question mark. It could be almost anywhere. Well, okay, before Moksha. Okay, I'll put it that way. But the next one, yeah, is definitely very viable for, if not the first one, then certainly no less than the second governor you would adopt.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Magnus is Stewart. He gets an A+ rating. And the poster also agrees that Magnus is usually the first governor he'll appoint, and often he gets promoted before he takes the second one. Because he has all sorts of things. Groundbreak, which is default, which is chopping is already strong. With Magnus, it becomes crazy.
Plus 100% yields from plot harvests and feature removals in the city.
So was it help if he'd actually listed that with their format? I went, okay, but I don't remember off the top of my head. What is that?
I'll jump in with those descriptions if you cannot recall. I've got that called up. Certainly.
Oh, thank you. And then you get to choose between surplus logistics or provision. So either you get no food lost when training settlers, which, yeah, that would be great. And the surplus logistics. Yeah,
plus 20% growth in the city, and your trade routes ending here provide +2 food to the starting city, but the emphasis here is the plus 20% growth in your city.
Yeah, because that's twice the bonus that you get from the fertility rites in a religion.
Yep.
So.
And besides, if you're adopting, and even if you don't adopt, or excuse me, end up with a religion when you're adopting a pantheon, there are better pantheons to almost always take anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, that's beside the point, but yeah.
Yeah. And Industrialist, he says he's have yet to see a city that will gain more than 2 cogs from that, so he's yet to take that one. Some specific situations and maps might be worth it.
Yeah, you're +1 production per turn from each strategic resource in the city. So, yeah.
Strategics, yeah.
It's unusual to see that.
Yeah.
I have one of those maps where it decides to spam all the niter in one little section.
Yeah, I've seen maps where there's like 3 iron adjacent to each other and stuff, or 2 horses within 1 or 2 tiles from each other. So yeah,
legendary starch are like super abundant resources or something. Maybe this is worth a look.
Arguably, Magnus does not need any more promoting, and in fact, a lot of calls in the community for quite the opposite. But I'd be more likely to take Industrialist if it was, say, +1 production per turn from each, I don't know, mined resource. Not even necessarily strategic resource, or just mine in general in the city.
For all your mines, basically?
Yep. Just for that city. But still, obviously, because it's for the city itself.
And maybe quarries.
You give a reason to keep quarries. It's hard, though, because he's giving you 100% bonus on those quarries. You're probably going to harvest those quarries, to be fair.
Because you'll get a lot more and earlier on, but...
Yeah.
But still, I would say sure, throw quarries in there. Maybe you've got it's a city that you've started later or something like that, and you're not so concerned about the harvesting.
Yeah, so the one that everyone takes is Black Marketeer, because you can get any unit you want, even if you lack the required strategic resource.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. It's,
look, I have no niter. Guess what? I can build musketmen anyway.
It's kind of that extension of before with, hey, I only have 1 niter. that's okay. Go ahead and construct an encampment. But yeah, I have absolutely none. And to tie into there's a city-state that will give you a copy of the strategic resources that you have revealed but do not own, and sort of having that, which of course is very situational. This is the much better path. And there's certainly at some points in the game you can say you can probably get by without, say, having niter, but depending upon the map type and what's going on, you're probably going to want coal and or oil or aluminum somewhere in there. And if that happens to be you really have a production-based city, then to be able to build those things in the city without that, and without having to spend the gold, yeah, it's very powerful.
So, does this mean I can build infinite nukes?
Theoretically.
Okay, just checking, because I got to think use the resource. I was going through the resources in my head and going up the tech tree, and I'm going, hold up. If I don't have to have uranium in my territory, and I have this guy, then I could sit there and have every city build nukes all the time. Don't tell Grim, guys.
Well, and it's also one of those things where, I'm sorry, no one seems to find that strategic resource on the map. Okay, even if there's no strategic...
one city, right? Like, you can only build units in that one city without...
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
that's
uranium
still-
place where it's just shit cities everywhere.
If you're running vertical integration in that, and you're just turning nukes, if that's a valid
Yeah.
move, then yeah, it's pretty nice.
Nukes don't need a promotion.
No, they don't. They don't need to heal either.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, with the vertical integration, the city receiving production from any number of nearby industrial zones, not just the first. How many hexes is that away? Is that like half
Is
a
it
dozen?
usually 6?
It is half a dozen? Okay.
Throw
I think
Toronto
it's
in the
just
mix.
bringing back that ability that got patched out because it was ridiculous.
Yeah, now you have to specialize into it and plan ahead, sort of.
You have to invest to get there, and it's limited to one city instead of all of your cities.
Cities. So, yeah. You can have this, but you can't have it everywhere. Fair enough. All right, that brings us to Liang the Surveyor, who's a B/A. She's map dependent.
Oof, I don't know about that. I mean, you don't pick her over Magnus normally, but
I actually usually do pick her pretty early just for that +1
Yeah.
builder charge, because that's
Yeah.
really helpful early
Yeah.
on. So, and if you don't have very many tiles to chop or to harvest, then, go with Liang instead of Magnus.
yeah,
'cause-
she could. Yeah, if you don't have chopping, then yeah, you could bring her out first. Even you're right.
And when you
I have
think
not
about...
had a chance to do it in a game of my own yet, but aquaculture, I saw someone basically who had a smaller island, but it's just like, let me spam fisheries everywhere where there's not reefs. That was
Aquaculture-
ridiculously good.
Aquaculture is very nice. I've been using that a lot. I've been much more willing now to settle on islands because of that.
Yep, the fishery unique improvement can be built in the city on coastal plots, yields +1 food, and +1 food if adjacent to a sea resource. The 1/1 build charge that you get by default means that if you put that in a city that has itself decent production, then not only are you getting builders more quickly, but especially if you've got a relatively concentrated empire and trading in between the cities and you're getting trade routes, internal trade routes, and you can move those builders in place. Not only can you get them, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to have to spend X number of turns to get it to this city. Yeah, but how many turns are you going to have to spend to build that builder in that city in the first place? Plus, you're going to get one extra build charge on top of it. So you can have one city at one point in time be kind of your
Specialize in nothing but builders.
builder, yeah, to absolutely improve your empire. That's, again, with +1 builder charge, that's like you are China without being China. And if you are China, then you can get 5 builder charges instead of 4. So
Add the pyramids.
She's one of the most move-happy governors,
Yes.
though.
Mhm.
Like, a lot of her abilities encourage you to move her a lot. And, yeah, you can just build builders wherever she is at the time.
Well, she unlocks exclusive districts. So yeah, if you want, or not districts, but improvements. So if you want those improvements in all your cities, you gotta move around.
And
Also,
also,
she's
if you're
boosting the infrastructure stuff, too.
And
Yeah.
the downside is I always get those at a point in the game where I've already got those districts built. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, she does with the Parks and Rec final where you can something similar to a golf course that you can build everywhere for everybody. So extra one
Sort of.
amenity in all your cities. It's like, yeah, it's not bad.
Also
But
gives
even
you
her being mini pyramids alone, you know.
yeah, the city park if adjacent to a lake or an ocean, and +2 appeal and +1 culture. But yeah, the +1 amenity.
What? Quick question though. What is the benefit of having +2 appeal on the tile? Is it +2 appeal to adjacent tiles? Does that like bleed over or something? Because what difference does that make if I can't put something else on that tile, like a neighborhood that benefits from appeal?
Doesn't it have something to do with the tourism and culture pseudo-victory condition?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, because then they're also...
I just had to get my pseudo-victory condition quota in, don't mind me.
But it is situational though. But really, for Liang the Surveyor, even if you never promote her, which admittedly I don't do that often, because okay, yeah, we can go down to aquaculture, or we can go down with the infrastructure, which is the +30% production towards city center government building government plaza buildings. As you were saying, Jason, either I've already got those, or I've chopped them out, I've got decent production from mines, etc. So I'm not really concerned about that. But just that +1 builder charge early on, if need be, you can shop her around to, okay, I've developed this part of the empire. Okay, now I'm going to move Liang over here to have this city now start constructing the builders because they're closer and it's a decent production base. That the fact that she's listed as a B/A map dependent, I would just put her as A full stop. Maybe an A minus. Maybe an A minus. Okay, maybe A minus. Simply because at some point you're probably
Is there a
may not
map
be.
you don't want to develop things on? I mean, seriously.
The rest of it is a bit more situational, so maybe you never want to promote her, which I see could make an argument for saying, why would you say she was an A or an A plus if all you do is want to adopt her and move her around and never actually promote her and think about it. But yeah, map dependent. I guess the only map dependent argument you could make is if you're on a really water-based map and there isn't a lot of land to begin with, like you're on really stinky continents or or stinky islands or whatever, and there just isn't a lot that you're able to do, then maybe you're not going to need that many builders in the first place, and you're better off adopting.
But then you are going to want her for aquaculture, so you can get more food out of all those tiles and grow your cities bigger. So, and you're going to want her early because you're going to have to promote her into that.
Well, I guess. Well, yeah, there's that. That's true. Yeah. So really, it's not map dependent, whether you want her or not.
Yeah, I give her a solid A, or an A minus. Yeah.
And then there's the next governor, who is the one that I'm usually ping-ponging back and forth between this person and Magnus. As it's like either this person, if he's not first, then he's second, because then in that case Magnus was first, and then this guy ends up being second.
Yeah, Pingala the Educator, which is getting B+/A, depending on how you play and what victory condition you're working for, because obviously he's going to be a little more useful for something like science. Because default librarian, the default thing, 10% boost to science and culture, which is going to scale with city size and the amount of buildings you've got. So yeah, let me just place him in my capital and just start building all the things.
Yep, plus 20% increase in science and culture generated in the city. I do not find I promote this person very often. Although, because it says victory condition dependent, because later on there's like an increase to, all, like the last one, right? Is it Space Initiative? Is that the last one? Yeah, no.
Yeah, that could, you're on the science victory. It can give you the edge against another civ on that. Yeah, and he's saying that those first two promotions, it doesn't play too well with librarian because it's not enhancing that, but that middle one with the grants for double great person points, yes, please. Let me have all the scientists now.
Although okay, so you're getting plus 20% increase in science and culture generated by the city. The first two levels, the connoisseur and the researcher, so the kind of the tier 1, if we're going to count the one that you get automatically as tier 0, that's plus 20% production towards theater square buildings in the city for connoisseur, and plus 20% production towards campus buildings in the city. I think that does work well with librarian, actually.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out, but I think half the time, by the time because I'll pick him up and I'll get some other. I'll probably pick up Liang and maybe Magnus, and then before I come back to him, and by that time, usually the city I've got him in, I've already built those buildings if I'm going to build them.
What? Yes. So
and I don't want to move him.
So like. No, I agree, because you're probably not going to want to move him. You're probably going to keep him in your capital because that's going to be your science-based city, and you want to be able to get that largest 20% increase you can possibly get. But because you're getting an increase generated by that, to me, it's not that it doesn't play well with the librarian. It plays well with the ability. It's just the timing, given the other, like you're saying, Mackie, the other governors that are available, Hello Magnus, Hello Liang, that by the time I think, okay, now that I've got this another governor promotion available, it's time to go back to Pingala. Oh, I've already got the library in the city, or the library is only going to take half a dozen turns, and this is on online speed, 6-8 turns, so I get a 20% production increase. It's going to shave maybe a turn or two off. I'd much rather use that promotion for something else than one of the other governors. So it's not that it doesn't work well, as was described by the opening poster. It's just the timing isn't so fabulous.
Yeah, because that default ability is a percentage boost, he's not really all that great until your city is already pretty large and generating a lot of research. So unless you're like Korea or something like that, you've got that automatic +4, +5 from your Seowan districts, you're going to be going for Liang or Magnus earlier because you've got to grow your cities to a point where Pingala is actually useful.
It's kind of one of those with Magnus, because the default ability is plus 100% yields from plot harvest and feature removals in the city. It depends on what your city has, or what the cities that you have in order to get that. So that's why it might be, okay, I'm probably going to go Liang because all builders trained in the city get +1 builder charge. That's going to be very nice from the very beginning, and it's an absolute value as opposed to percentage, like you're saying, Jason. Whereas by that point, by the time if Pingala is not first, it's kind of one of those things where, I've got my capital, I've already got a governor promotion. I could put Liang in here and get all builders getting +1 build charge, but I'd actually rather be increasing, say, the science infrastructure, or I want to construct the government plaza, or I want to be building some units. I'm going to go and I'm going to found a second city, and then that city can be the one looking at some additional production that I can then put Liang in there. So I'm going to adopt Pingala. I then might go Liang, and then possibly Magnus, or perhaps if that second city has some really good stuff for plot harvests and feature removals, then I'll do Magnus second and then Liang. The nice thing about these three is you can play around with them, and they're all really, really good in the first half of the game, or even the first third of the game, that they're really strong to be wanting to at least have them within your arsenal of governors, if we can call a collection of governors an arsenal. Ooh, sounds aggressive. Your arsenal of governors very early on. It's an interesting conversation that comes out of talking about these three in particular. Not that it makes the other ones look bad, but no. Just not as exciting, I'm afraid.
All right, our last one then. Randy the Financier getting a B+/A. Not a reason given on that one. Just number of abilities makes her useful no matter your victory condition. Those might be better in correct circumstances.
I'm feeling more like maybe a B- for Reyna. Like the default ability, acquire new tiles in the city faster. Well, if you really want that tile right now, and you can't wait for the half dozen turns, and I totally get why is the city going to acquire this hex next? This flatland grassland instead of the one with the iron on it? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the thing is, the game is going to pick that faster. It's just going to pick that flatland grassland tile faster.
And get onto a useful tile next, hopefully, maybe.
Hopefully, maybe. But if you buy that hex, then you know you've got that hex. So especially because the land acquisition is the first one. I mean, the fact that we start going down a little farther with that, with the Harbor Master and the foreign exchange. So Harbor Master, double adjacency bonus from commercial hubs and harbors in the city, or foreign exchange, +3 gold from each foreign trade route passing through the city. That one,
that
is
one's
like
dependent.
On,
super dependent.
Her money generating ones are generally pretty good. It's just the issue that I have with her and with Pingala is just that default ability just doesn't seem very strong. I usually don't want to invest in them early in the game because that default ability isn't doing much, especially compared to Liang or Magnus. But the second level ones can be very good if you're, building a nice trade empire. Especially if you've got like a lot of Yeah, especially if you do have if you spawn like in the middle of a cluster of city states and they're all building, trade units and sending them to you, then yeah, I mean, Reyna is awesome.
I think Reyna would be more competitive if we moved her tax collector capability that's currently the middle to be one of the first options, which is +2 gold per turn from each citizen in the city. So if you've got a decently sized city, and depending upon the terrain, you could be pushing out decently sized cities. You get to a 5 or a 6 size city, that's 6 gold a turn. That could be the equivalent of a trade route.
Yeah, I think the intent behind Reyna is to use her in like new cities to, for one thing, get faster tiles, but then also because, a lot of times with a new city, you're going to be wanting to send trade routes, internal trade routes. But I don't know, does she buff internal trade routes at all?
Nope.
Or it's only foreign ones, isn't it?
Yep. It's only foreign ones.
Yeah, it's weird because like the land acquisition is something you would want to put in like a brand new city. But then all the other things are things that you want in a developed city. So I almost feel like she's kind of like going in two different directions that kind of conflict. So if she had something that buffed internal trade routes, I would see her as being, like basically like your pioneer colonist, governor, where you build a new city and then you put her in it in order to, grow it really quickly. And then take her out and put like Pingala or someone else in there that's going to benefit for having a really large city. But as she stands right now, I don't really like. I like those mid-tier gold generating abilities, but like the rest of them just feel weird.
If for that foreign exchange, it just said +3 gold per turn from each trade route passing through the city, whether it was foreign or domestic, that would increase the desirability of that governor, and to have her earlier in the game. Or even if it was, the double adjacency bonuses from commercial hubs and harbors in the city, the issue with that is besides the adjacency bonus itself, it's like, oh, I double the adjacency bonus from +1 to 2 or from +2 to 4. I've got to construct those districts first, and I've got to get to the tech that it's going to allow me to get that. It's like, okay, I'm going to get a commercial hub at currency, but I'm not going to be at currency yet. Okay, I'm less likely to then look at Reyna and adopt her earlier to then take the promotion to get to that, because by the time I'm thinking of, hey, that adjacency bonus would be nice, I've already got some other combination of governors that have been promoted, and then I'm like, okay, I've already used up half a dozen promotions in the game, and now I'm going to have to use not 1, not 2, but 3 to get to that. It's just kind of, just too little, too late.
Yep.
So, when we look at all of the governors, I'm not handing a pink slip to any of them, but it's just a matter of when you're going to get hired and how promoted you're going to be. So, I think, Magnus and Liang and Pingala are going to be either upper or middle management. Moksha? Yeah, well.
You feel like playing a religious victory, grab him.
For sure.
Yeah, that's about it, really.
Well, we've already, in the context of the governors, talked about changes that we would like to see with them. But guess what? We may have other things that we want to see changed. Over on Civilization's Fanatic Center, started by Cryzip, with a capital Z, or Z if you prefer, your top 3, and I have to yell that because it's in all caps, your top 3 most wanted gameplay changes, which someone in the thread said, first off, only 3. Yeah, well. We only have so much time. Thank you. Yes, we don't have all day. Not even for PolyCast. I know. So his 3, seeing as how he started the thread, reason to settle cities on the coast, preferably a trade-related reason. I kind of stopped at that, and I'm like, you mean another reason? to settle cities on the coast, but okay.
Well, I think he means like exactly on the coast, as opposed to 1 or 2 tiles away from the coast, and then just build the harbor on the coast.
Oh, well.
And I kind of don't agree with that one. I think the way the harbor works now is just fine.
I guess a reason, if that's what they're going for, and I can see that now that I reread that in that context, I guess the only reason right now, forget about possible future things here, Dan, the only reason you might want to do that now is because there's a nice water-based resource that's 2 or 3 hexes out. But 3 hexes out, and if you don't settle on the coast, then you're not going to get it.
Or it's pretty much the only way that you're going to reach both tiles of like the Great Barrier Reef or the the Great Barrier Reef, the
Galapagos.
Galapagos, yeah.
Yeah, for those reasons. Second, if tourism is going to be its own yield type, then it should do something more than just deciding what moment you get a cultural win. It could affect loyalty pressure on foreign cities, perhaps? ?
I do think that both tourism and amenity should probably factor more into loyalty than it currently does. So, yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, because it's either the loyalty from the people that you've already got in your empire, because, well, a lot of people want to come to our city, our civilization. They're impressed with us. That's giving us a sense of pride. And also, they kind of want to move here. They just don't want to be tourists.
Another thing that it could do is, maybe having very high tourism could actually increase the growth rate of a city, because you're actually having more people emigrate to that city from other, countries, because it's, such a well-known, popular, touristy city.
And a limitation on how many trade routes I can send to the same city to prevent the optimal strategy being able to send every single trade route to the biggest and best city available. I feel like the limitation on the trade routes you can send is the limitation that you have on the trade routes to begin with. You can only have so many trade routes at a particular point in time.
Well, and I often like to send them to different civs just to get the diplomatic, bonus for having a trade route with another civ.
Or get an envoy with the city-state.
Yeah,
because they wanted a trade route. Yeah.
There's reasons, but
There's a score as well now when you complete the trade route.
Yeah, that too. Yes. Yep, if you choose that as your dedication. Yes. Didn't think about the word for a second. But 2 things. Because this said top 3, it really sounded like something else that's a top. Cue the Mackie and Phil groan, and maybe Jason too, because he realizes where this is headed. I'm also doing this because you're now on the panel, Jason. So I either give you the credit or you can take the blame. I went through this list and I created a top 10 list from people in the thread. But I also chose those that I also felt were worthwhile pointing out because, well, I'm me.
Dan's basically saying, now bend over. It's just in Dan
Top
version.
10 time.
Dan has hijacked the thread.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's also, well, it's also the reason why I signed this topic to myself. I did have a hidden agenda, although it's not so hidden anymore. Oh, no.
Dan, that's your default agenda that's visible to everyone.
Yeah.
So if I was a governor in the game, that would be your default ability? Introduce top 10 lists?
Top 10 list, yeah.
Your turn rolls over. Here are the top 10 things you can do to improve your empire. Fuck off. Okay.
Yeah, that'll improve it.
All right. Number 10 from Casper GM. Remove religion cap. It's obsolete with new religion system when you can easily eradicate foreign religions. Otherwise, as an alternative, let us gain ownership of a religion by capturing the holy city.
Yes.
I would like to be able to compete for a religious victory if I did not found a religion myself. That would kind of be nice.
Yeah. It would improve the religion mechanic. It wouldn't address all of my standing issues with it, but it would be less about, oh, I just captured this city, it's the holy city, or it's a city in general that's now producing faith, and I think, oh, good faith for discounted towards great people, not yay faith because religion. Number 9 from Technical. Teach the AI to use air units and modern combat in general. Earlier ages are a lot better, but endgame combat is just face roll. Yeah.
It's been getting better every
patch.
It is getting better every patch. I also kind of put it lower on the list because unless you're one of those advanced starts people, you may not get to the point in the game where you really realize how bad that still is. But as Dr. Jambo adds later in the thread, have the AI build air forces in addition to using the air force. Yeah, that helps. But what I find happens is that they'll go ahead and, they will have the aerodrome, and maybe they put a biplane or two in it, but they never upgrade them, they never use them, they never add to them. Why did you construct this in the first place? You wasted a district build, derp. Number 8, seed cities. Most people don't know what it actually does and use it thinking it does something that it doesn't. It's misleading, it's broken, either fix or remove it. It serves no purpose in the game aside from misleading players. From Leandrome Braz. I mean, really, you get peace with that civilization. There is the option to have the seed city in it, and you can put it on the list, and the AI isn't going to blink one way or another. But other than that, it's just, what's the point? Why do I really care? Supremacy King at number 7. Allow catapults and other siege weapons to be escorted by melee units. Because they're separate units, having them on the same hex is what I associate with being an escort. But maybe there's a situation where you want it to be that these two units need to move in tandem, whether they're side by side or one in front or one in behind. So if there was an escort way to ensure that they were kept together so that not only that you remembered, but it would also reduce some clicks on your turns and increase your turn time, but also allow you to organize things a little better, that would be all right. I would like that.
Or just make siege weapons have higher defense, make them not so vulnerable to bombardment from the city, so they don't die in 2 hits before you even get a chance to fire them.
Yeah, that's my problem with them. They're designed to counter cities, and they don't really do a good job of that because they get shot to death by the cities.
Right, if you've got a city with walls and it has a ranged unit in it, or a siege unit of its own, I mean, your own siege unit is dead before it even gets a chance to fire. So you basically have to show up with 2 or 3 or 4 of them and know that 1 or 2 of them are basically just cannon fodder.
And they're weird too because they're really good once you have promotions on them, but they're pretty hard to get to that point.
Yeah,
you'd almost need another unit class or something. I mean, because we have support units that could be escorted right now. So if you had another unit, put siege weapons in their own unit class where they can be escorted like that.
Again, I think they just need to be able to defend themselves better. It would also help if there were more upgrades, so you didn't have to wait 2 whole eras before you got an upgrade to your catapult, so that it would actually remain more on par with the bombardment strength of the city. Because there are periods of the game where I find just siege weapons are just completely unusable because they get pulverized by city bombardment. And then you get the upgrade, and it's now they're invincible for a small period of time.
Number 6 from Zeusgond. The spy mechanism needs to be reworked. It's boring and tedious. Yes.
I do like all the passive intrigue stuff, though. That's actually more interesting to me than the actual using the spies. So I wish there was a better UI for getting the passive information stuff, instead of filling half the screen with all those annoying little notification pop-ups that disappear in 2 seconds.
It's better than it was in Civilization 5. Not saying much. I'm not saying I would want to see a return of what it was in Civilization 4, but it was better in Civilization 4.
The one thing that I do really like about spies in Civ 6 compared to Civ 5 is that you actually have to build them. You have to invest in espionage in this game rather than them just being given to you for free when you advance to a new era.
Which is good, because then you're not taking it as for granted, but then at the same time, once you can do that, I mean, it's nice to maybe have 1 or 2 sit them in a city for visibility, so you have an idea if you're at war with them or about to declare war with them, what units are in there and where they're positioned, etc. But a lot of beyond that is there really isn't much to get you too excited about it. It's like, oh, hey, I got a few hundred gold. Oh, there's this immediate, and by the time you can get that few hundred gold, it's kind of, well, I'm making that in a couple of turns anyway, so, and then there's the possibility they're going to get captured, and then there's going to be the the negative diplomacy. The one thing that is nice about the spy mechanism is when the AI is using it and they get captured and the AI spends way too much money to get their spy back.
Yeah, I do like that you can trade them back to the other players. That's a very nice feature. But I think my biggest complaint with the way that spies work right now is that I feel like I can never use them because I have to put them in my own cities to stop every other civ from sabotaging me. So I really wish that we would have like police stations or something like that back where we could actually build infrastructure in our city or have more like social policies or something like that that, you know, make it so that you can actually send your spies out to other civs to actually do things and not feel like you're constantly having your entire treasury plundered.
And the thing is, I'm spending so much. Well, I don't have my treasury fill up too much as I'm turning around and I'm spending that gold. So even if they are successful against me with that, it's, you know, it takes X number of turns for them in order to be able to accomplish that. Eventually, they're going to get caught or they're going to get killed. So I personally don't feel the need to have them serve as counter spies. The active missions are, again, very, very situational. Maybe I want to put a spy in there and sabotage a spaceport, you know, to help you prevent, because I'm not going to be able to go and take your cities before it looks like you're going to win a space race. That's nice, but I would like, once the spies are introduced, to be something that you're actively thinking about, like the governor system, like the historic timeline, like diplomacy. Ugh.
And it would also be nice if you could do something with spies with city-states, because right now I don't think spies... I think you can station a spy in a city-state, but I think there are literally no missions you can do. I think. I don't remember for sure.
Yeah, unlike, say, taking a spy into another civilization city and trying to, what is it, partisans or discontent or something like that. Yeah, the city-state dog, you can just sit it there and watch what it's doing. All right, from Connor Beebe, make great people capturable, excluding great generals and great admirals who can be killed if not protected.
6A, the AI needs to know to protect its civilian units then.
This worker's just going to own exploration of the whole world. Don't mind him.
Yeah, fix that issue first, and then we'll talk about great people maybe being capturable.
I still think we should be talking about making great people capturable, but yes, there is that too. Just like in having the AI, can you consistently escort your settler, please? Especially when I'm at war with you? Or you're going right by my borders? I mean, seriously? Is this a trick? Why? Oasis. I would like to see free cities become more than just recolored barbarians. They're also too exploitable and an easy way to waste your enemy's energies. Just the more than recolored barbarians, similar to what we were talking about, I think, on the last episode, about free cities. Yes, it seems like an unnecessary stopgap. Refer to episode 301. Blah. As for number 3, this has been addressed in a very small part, but I think this is a much bigger point about revisit some of the silly agendas. Harold not liking you for not having ships when you are landlocked, etc. Or the, hey, your treasury is crap. Next turn, hey, your treasury is filling up nicely. What? If not, revisit some of it is about the agenda itself, and the other time is about the triggering of said agendas. Either way, we're revisiting these agendas.
Like please. Congo founded a religion one turn ago. Why haven't you spread it to me? Why
you know war? Spread.
Yeah, why you know spread? You're on the other side of the planet.
You don't even have enough faith to even pop out a missionary yet. But I want you to have missionaries in my cities right now.
Now.
I just declared peace with Macedon. Next turn. Hey, I wouldn't want to meet you in battle because, you know, you fight for your people. Yeah, I was just fighting you. Why are you happy about... What? You're weird. From
Never
Sancho...
make peace with Alex. Never.
Well, sometimes... temporarily. Never make permanent peace. Never turn your back on Alexander. Sometimes peace might be necessary, even if it's just for the 10 turns to heal and construct some more units and move some units out of the way, etc., just to lull them into a false sense of security. Haha! Fixing diplomacy triggers. This is from Sancho Panda. Yeah, so for example, I have a few hundred gold per turn, spend all of it, and the next turn the AI denounces me for being poor. The AI settles next to my borders and warns me because the troops in my territory are at their borders. That's actually a fantastic one. They forward settle me, and then you tell me, like what?
Yeah. Or worse
Stop.
yet, you actually have open borders with them, and then they still bug you with that.
Like,
Or you had
really?
open borders last turn, and the open borders ended, and all your units got kicked out to adjacent to their territory, and then they complain about you having an army at their borders.
Number one for me from CivFan159, Barbarian Activity Levels. This is, I know it's semi-controversial within the Turncast group whether or not to enable barbarians in our particular game, but my issue is when the barbarians appear and their strength, particularly if they have horse-based units. Because it's sometimes like, hey, in another thread about things that I don't worry about, is like, hey, just go and get rid of the camps. Yeah, but when they appear so quickly, and they're so close to my borders, and there's so many of them, and I'm the one that's experiencing this, pretty sure most of the other civilizations on the map are also not experiencing it, so not only am I playing whack-a-mole with the barbarians, the other civs are going that much farther ahead of me, and it just seems like, oh, I just happened to spawn, and then they just happened to spawn, and I just got luck screwed more than once. It doesn't feel like I'm really making a decision one way or another, and I can't minimize the barbarian level, so I got to turn around and disable them.
Yeah.
And why, oh why is there not a clickable notification for when a new barbarian camp spawns? You get the little audio cue, and then you have to search the whole friggin' map trying to find which tile that stupid outpost spawned on. Just make it a clickable notification, so I click on it, and it takes me to that tile.
Yeah, no kidding. And if you're going to give the player that notification at all, yes, just let us find it without.
That's been
panning
driving
around.
me nuts since day one of Civ 6 vanilla release.
Well, it's completely unnecessary. So, yeah.
I mean, it's great that you can almost certainly avoid being in a dark age going into the classical era if you have barbarians on. If you're successful in getting rid of barbarian camps, that's true. It's great for the era score, but that still doesn't address their activity level, the timing and the location, and because of that, the ability to respond in a way other than to rage.
I think I have yet to be not in a golden age in the classical era because of barbarians.
Assuming you get to that point in the game and haven't rage quit because you're getting schmucked. Or maybe you do after you get the golden age anyway. 'Cause
Well, they
it's
are
like,
pretty
wow,
dependent on.
Yeah,
Like that's a huge source of era score.
yeah, they can.
Oy. Speaking of things that are not recolored barbarians, though.
Phenomena.
Oh, Tim.
Okay, best city-state suzerain bonus. Start on CFC by Pibbs. He didn't list his stuff, but he put a thing up for everyone to discuss. First one was Avian British. He plays very coastal, so he goes Auckland and then Madola, always his go-tos. He likes Valletta for excess faith to get new cities up to scratch quickly, and by those last levels of walls before you get steel. And it's always nice having La Venta, Granada, or Amag for the unique improvements, so you can build in such improvable tiles as tundra, snow, and desert. And
Okay.
he also like.
No, finish. Go ahead. Sorry.
He also likes Buenos Aires, Brussels, Geneva, Kabul, Palnik, Stockholm, and Zanzibar.
Okay, on the ability to construct those unique improvements so you can, on the unimprovable tiles, see, to me, those things are best left for certain districts. Like, hey, I need a spot for my entertainment district. Oh, look at this empty tundra. This is fantastic.
Oh, definitely.
And And also that ability, that improvement, like a Colossal Head, for example. Okay, I'm going to expend a builder charge on that. I'm going to get something, but it's just... especially with the limited charges, I've got something better to be doing with that. I don't mind necessarily for some city-states that I'm getting the not the suzerain bonus, but I'm getting the bonus at one or more tiers based on the districts that I have in the city. But in terms of a suzerain bonus, he actually talks about liking blah 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 and mentions Zanzibar last. Zanzibar, receive the cinnamon and cloves as luxury resources. They cannot be earned in any other way, and each provides 6 amenities each. Wow. So first off, obviously if you have a large empire, but in some cases, even if you don't have a large empire, hey, I'd like to be Scotland. Hey, look, all my cities are ecstatic. Hey, look at all the additional, production and science I'm getting from that. Zanzibar is fantastic. They would be my favorite.
The unique improvement ones also don't benefit from the fact that they're pretty much all just faith.
I'm just going to interrupt you here for a second, Jason. Maybe it's just me, but you got off
suddenly really quiet. Yeah.
You got very
quiet.
Oh yeah. There you go. Try again.
Sorry. Yeah, one of the things that I think really hurts with the unique improvement ones is that they're almost exclusively faith improvements. Like if they had say Amsterdam had been a city-state and that had given you polders, that would have been awesome. But getting 2 faith on a tile, whoop-de-doo.
All right, so Zanzibar's my favorite. I think it's worthwhile mentioning maybe some of the other ones other than our favorites. And yeah, I kind of... It's a sickness I have, but sorry, not sorry. I kind of made a top 10 list out of this too, even though it really wasn't suggested by that. But I'm doubling down on the top 10s because I was pretty remiss in 2017, so I'm trying to make up for it. You see, you're welcome, even though nobody thanked me. Okay. But before I do that, Jason, what would be your favorite city-state suzerain bonus in Rise and Fall?
Okay, so I can't agree with Old Carthage because that was hands down the best, I thought.
Yes, in Rise and Fall.
Yeah. I haven't really seen a lot of the new ones, so it's kind of hard for me to say, but I do like the ones that give you the unique luxuries. That's pretty good. And I also really like the one that gives you the benefit of being adjacent to water, even if you're not. That's going to be very map dependent, but if you start out in desert or something like that, that's pretty helpful.
Are you talking about the ones that give you full housing, like you were next to water? Is that the one you're talking about?
Right. Yeah. I don't remember which city-state that is. I think it's one of the cultural ones, but I don't remember the name of it. But yeah, it's basically you don't have to build adjacent to the water to have the 6 housing or whatever.
Hang on here. That would be Mohenjo-Daro. Your cities have full housing from water as if they were all next to a river.
Yeah, it just gives you a little bit more flexibility with where you can put your cities.
Okay, so we'll just kind of go around the table as if we actually had a table. We can't afford tables on this show. Have you seen our budget? Tim?
My computer's kind of sitting on one.
It's all dependent upon what way I'm going. If I'm going religion, it's going to be Yerevan. If I'm going war, it's Kabul. It all depends. And who you find on there as well.
Okay, yeah, Kabul, your units receive double experience from battles they initiate. What was the first one you said?
Yerevan for religion.
Yes, right. Your apostle units can choose from any possible promotions instead of receiving a random promotion. Phil.
Conquered city state.
That's his favorite suzerain bonus, conquered. Mackie.
Trader city state.
All of the financial ones that have gold to buy all the things.
Okay.
Seriously, I mean, yeah. If you're able to get trade routes out there, you can make so much gold. Just send all the trade routes up to that city-state. Whether it's there, Bandar Brunei and Amsterdam and other places that we've had all game. And it's just, I love it when there's more than one on a map.
All right, so yes, Amsterdam, your trade routes to foreign cities earn +1 gold for each luxury resource at the destination. Bandar Brunei, your trading posts in foreign cities provide +1 gold to your trade routes passing through or going to the city.
Can't
All
remember
right.
the other financial bonus, but they're all nice.
Muscat +1 amenity in cities with a commercial hub district. Okay, so some of these we've already mentioned, but we already know what number 1 is on my top 10 list.
Concord City State.
that's your top 1 list, Phil.
Oh, right.
Number 10, actually, I have Amsterdam. Number 9, Hattusa provides one of each strategic resource you have revealed but do not currently own, which can be available sooner than getting that equivalent, and even better than through the promotions, governor promotions with Magnus. Pelinique, city-state growth is 15% higher in cities with a campus district. Antanavario, your civilization gains +2 culture for each great person it has ever earned. Obviously much better as the game is going on, as with all of these percentage-based ones. Speaking of percentage-based ones, Geneva, your cities earn +15% science whenever you are not at war with any civilization, and yes, there will be periods of time that you are not at war with any other civilization. What? Nan Madal, I believe that was one of the ones that was mentioned in the first reply to the thread. Your districts on or next to the coast tiles provide +2 culture. Auckland was also mentioned. Your shallow water tiles worked by citizens provide +1 production, with an additional +1 production when you reach the industrial era. Kumasi I have at number 3, where your trade routes to any city-state provide +2 culture and +1 gold for every specialty district in the origin city. Wow. And often trade routes with city-states in general are fantastic, because I'm getting that added science by going to a scientific city-state, or added culture from a cultural city-state. That's an absolute value, and it's based on the number of specialty districts that I have in the origin city. So I wonder what I can reach from my capital and my second city and my third city that have lots and lots of specialty districts. Mentioned Muscat. I'll put that at number 2. I would actually probably now that I think about it more in the rise and fall context, I'm going to swap Kumasi and Muscat here. I'll make Kumasi second, then Muscat third. But I mean, you could always be having more amenities, especially as your civilization is starting to grow. Oh, I can't have any more unique luxuries. Oh, I didn't get that great merchant for that otherwise unique luxury. Someone else has got a hold of Zanzibar. Curse you. I've already maxed out my entertainment districts, and I'm still on a warring rampage, or I'm getting schmucked by somebody else. And then, of course, Zanzibar number 1. Yeah, also the change from, of course, the Carthage one, where your encampment districts provide +1 trade route capacity each. Wow, that would have been especially nice now with the changes in Rise and Fall. Oh, I don't have to worry about my commercial hubs no longer giving me +1 trade route capacity. I'll just have encampments anywhere. Aww.
Well, I would assume that if they'd have kept that in the game, they probably at least would have changed it to require a barracks or a stable.
Hopefully they would have, yeah. And it's a good thing there are things that people care about in this game, otherwise we wouldn't have a show. However, and that is to Mikey.
Oh, I was thinking, is that me or not me? I can't remember. So, thread started by Anonymous Feed. Things other people care about, but you don't. Like, for him, he doesn't really care about how balanced this is, or as long as they're unique, interesting, fun, it's more acceptable for them to vary wildly in power. Now, doesn't care if they're partially silent because they've got at least 5 recorded lines of dialogue. You know, he's like, Some people don't like music. Some people don't care if tall is as viable as wide. Now, wait a minute. Hold up.
Some people don't.
Some people.
Oh, I read that and I'm like, are they serious or is it trollololo? Because they didn't say anything else. So I'm not.
Well, as someone who plays the game almost exclusively single player, you know, the competitive balance of the different civs against each other is not as important to me as it is to a lot of other people. So I can definitely understand that that position.
To me, the balance is kind of a middle of the road thing. I don't want them to be so extreme like I'm playing Civilization Revolution, where this one particular civilization is so much more powerful in this respect right from the outset, regardless of what you do or do not do in the game. But I don't want them to be so similar to each other that it doesn't matter what I'm choosing, otherwise it's just a color palette choice. So I do care how balanced they are, but I'm not concerned with them being perfectly balanced. And I'm not concerned about them like not being balanced at all, like somewhere in the middle. And that's a very difficult thing to quantify and to put into terms. So it's not that I don't care about. I do care about, but it's not the be-all and end-all of my enjoyment of this game.
Somebody else that doesn't care about barbarians being a pain, Dan. You want to go tell them how they're wrong?
Oh, is this LMNT? Yeah, that's just part of the game. Build units and clear the camps if they're too much of a problem. Okay, so you go ahead and you build those units and again, this is from the online speed perspective, but still, you go ahead and you build those units in the first 5-10 turns and enjoy the every 3 or 4 barbarian units you have to yours, simply because you happen to spawn near a barb camp, even more so if it's near horses, and then they get the horse units and they move in. He says especially when they get horsemen early. I mean, I agree. You build units and you clear the camps if they're too much of a problem. But when I don't have a viable opportunity in order to do that, then...
Yeah, they ignore that argument all the time. It's annoying on the forum, but what can you do about it?
That's
and
true.
while you're building units early on to clear all those camps, the AI is just building more settlers.
I just don't like the early scout that has no counterplay, but people pretend it has counterplay anyway, and that's obnoxious.
I think if the barbarian outpost just did not start with that scout, I think that by itself would be a huge improvement. If they had to wait like 5 or 10 turns at least in order to generate their scout, that by itself I think would make me happy.
Yeah.
I still prefer that the horses not spawn so early, but getting rid of that starting scout would be a huge improvement.
It would
and
give
that's really all it needs to be at least decent. That's really it.
Yeah, I'm not expecting, if barbarians are in the game, that I would even get to sit at home for 15, 20 turns, and then suddenly a barbarian arrives, and then it's, oh no, whatever am I to do? Then in that case, no, that would be my mistake, because I know barbarians in the game. They could be somewhere. Eventually they will start roaming to find out what else is around beside their immediate vicinity, just like I would be doing. But then it would be my mistake for not putting that in proper priority sequence based on, it's a much bigger deal if I know I'm on, let's say, a continent's map as compared to an island's map, whatever. There just has to be that counterplay and a reasonable opportunity to have that counterplay, because that combined with what Mackie has said is the other part of it, which is I'm spending all of this time. I spent the last 40, 50 turns. Look at my era score, guys. I'm not just in a golden age. I'm in constant golden ages. Look at me. This is fantastic. Oh, that's really great. Look at you got really nice archers and you got really nice archers and warriors. Hey, my swordsmen and crossbowmen would like a conversation with you. Like what the heck am I supposed to do now? Ugh. Other people in the thread, disgustipated. Time of victory doesn't matter to me one bit. It doesn't matter to me either, but I know people who are looking at, the Hall of Fame stuff, number one, but also people just challenging themselves to get a victory again, only to do it more quickly. Okay, I get that, but I too, especially about the time of victory, or even just whether or not I formally win. Sometimes a formal win in Civ is not rage quitting. Really. Air quotes, formal win.
Rage quitting is 100% value.
Really, I don't care about winning the game. I simply play until I am bored. I don't care about fancy animations and cultural representation, quote unquote. Wow, those are very different.
A lot of people care about it though. So if you don't, then it's the thread topic. Well,
that's one of these 3 things is not like the others.
Yeah.
In your statement. I bulge at that. Oh dear, Black Catatonic. Scenarios. Never played one, probably never will. Yeah, I know there are scenarios in Civ, but I get why some people like them, but for me, when I play Civilization, I'm looking for a game that's going to be, spanning the test of time, and a scenario is intended to me to be a slice of that. So it would be one thing if we were talking about a mod pack, not that I play with modification packs, but that is changing some or all of this kind of grand experience. But a scenario is just a little slice at a time. I mean, some of them are interesting, and some of the things that you can do, but it's not going to make me come back to play the game again and again.
Definitely not. I played exactly one scenario in Civ 6, and that was the Australian Outback one when it first came out. Tried it once and never went back to it.
Phil will like this one, although not just Phil, from Bad Wolf. Deity is too hard, crying face. Oh, really? The hardest difficulty level in the game is really, really hard. Wow, who would have thought? Just go try playing the hardest difficulty level in practically any other game out there. You'll notice it's also really, really hard. Almost as if it's by design. Well.
Yeah, my complaint isn't that it's too hard. It's just I don't like the way that Firaxis and Civilization have traditionally implemented the difficulty in the games. I wish they could find some way besides just stacking a bunch of early buffs onto the AIs at the very start. Because once you get past those early hurdles, the rest of the game becomes pretty easy.
What else did I see here? Oh, Eliminator Senior. AI using air units. Game is already well over by then. I'd much rather have them be effective with normal units. Okay, so first off, apparently air units are abnormal. But no, if we're going to have an era in the game, if we are going to have that as part of the experience, whether you get there or not, once you get to that point, the AI should be able to use the air units. First off, use air units, period. And second of all, at least use them as well as they do other eras. I don't really care about a Hall of Fame either. I don't even understand the scoring system or pay much attention to it. Yeah, well, join the club. About the scoring system. Oh.
They reworked the scoring system with Rise and Fall. Because I've noticed all the scores seem to be a lot higher now with post-Rise and Fall games than with the pre-Rise and Fall games.
Oh, the score before was just a joke. Like,
I do like the Hall of Fame as a record of games that I've played through to completion. So sometimes when I'm booting up the game, I'm like, oh, what civs haven't I played with yet or haven't beaten the game with yet? And then I want to play as that civ. Granted, the Steam achievements kind of serve that same purpose now. I can always look at that. But it's also nice to see, like, what difficulty level was I on? What map type was I on? You know, those sorts of things.
Which would be even more information than you could get from the game that you're playing, and you press the escape button and you're looking at the summary of the information in the game. And it's like, so what map type are we playing?
Right. Or the load screen when you're actually picking which save file you want to load.
Yeah. Oi.
Yeah, the only time Dan cares about score is in multiplayer.
I knew either Mackie or Phil was going to make that reference. Speaking of multiplayer, Schmilly Dana, I have never had any interest in playing any multiplayer games. Well, I am sad for you, sir or ma'am. But what
About
it didn't
10 years ago, Dan might have agreed with you.
yeah, it's true.
That's also true. That's their statement today. It might not be their statement tomorrow. Hopefully, there wasn't a time when they did enjoy multiplayer gaming, and now they don't. The key thing about that, and it doesn't explain why there's not having any interest in playing multiplayer games. I think the first question is, do you want to play the game with other people? And if so, how do you want to play the game with other people? If you're looking for competitive, you've got so many choices out there between formal leagues or just going into show me an internet game lobby and go for it. For a cooperative, that's finding like-minded people who like that kind of game. But it's fair to say that yes, that there'll be some people that have no interest in playing any multiplayer games. And if you look at the percentage of people who play Civilization 6 multiplayer as compared to multiplayer in any other civs, it is a minority, a notable minority, as compared to the single player. So no hard feelings there. You can still listen to the show. That's fine. Because oftentimes things that we're talking about in the game, if it's not AI specific, it's more often than not first and foremost thinking about the single player perspective, because that's how the majority of people play, and that is the majority of the base of the game. Oh, and Cryzip says, I enjoy his things other people care about, but you don't. He says synergy. Lol. I approve, sir. You can definitely continue listening to the show if you do already. And from the previous topic about your top 3 most wanted gameplay changes, Sammy Kafilia just wanted to troll because apparently he wants there to be free tacos in the gameplay. Yeah, so.
But digital tacos don't help you.
But digital cookies do.
Official 2K taco drone delivery.
There you go.
Oh, but there's one for filling the things other people care about. That Mr. Shadows thinks the UI is pretty good as it is. The problem's not the UI. The problem's that people complain about the UI.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a trout and I'm just gonna smack this guy across the face with a fish with it. And then I'll demand a rational explanation, and every time I don't hear one, he gets the trout.
If it's a singing trout, I'll pay money for that.
I just said a trout. I was not specific on the type, so a singing trout is acceptable in this scenario. I would not turn it down.
As for the 2K drone delivery taco, I can just see the tagline now. We're here to ring your bell.
Oh boy.
So they're getting a partnership with Taco Bell is what you're telling us.
Or a lawsuit. We're the only people that...
Just one or the other.
We are racking those up today, aren't we?
We are, and lawsuit. We're the only winners of the lawyers. Anyway. And last but not least, someone on this panel somehow got another topic of his onto the show. I call conspiracy.
Yeah, so speaking of things that other people care about but you don't, here's something that I care about but other people don't.
Way to sell.
Well, I thought you would appreciate the segue at least.
I absolutely did. I absolutely did.
Oh,
At your own
solid.
expense too. It's great.
Yeah, I wrote that in advance too. I prepared. So a few weeks ago, right around the same time that the expansion came out, I had been talking with one of my coworkers and friends about Civ and some of our frustrations that we have with the diplomacy system. And both of us are very annoyed by the fact that there is nothing proactive that you can do to tell the AI that you do or do not want them to behave in certain ways if you are interested in friendly relations with them. And we started just brainstorming about like different ideas that we could maybe come up with to resolve this that weren't just a matter of bringing back the old diplomatic prompts of please don't settle next to me or whatever. Which are still in Civ 6, but you can't use them until after the AI already performs that behavior, at which point oftentimes it's moot. Like your only recourse then is to denounce them or declare war on them, and even if you denounce them, they and other AIs don't know why they were denounced, so it also doesn't change their behavior at all other than making them mad at you and not like you for the rest of the game.
I think the added point there is that the other players do not know the reason why. It's bad enough that the person that you denounce doesn't know, but if the others don't know the context, then they're almost certainly, unless they already hate that person that you denounced, are going to hate you for simply that very reason. But maybe you both hate that person for the same reason, or perhaps you hate the same person for a different reason, and then you can share that information, and then, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so perhaps not only could you avoid some really negative situations for you, but you could actually build a friendship based on your mutual dislike of somebody else. Oh, ain't life grand?
Right. So in order to, maybe possibly address some of those complaints, my friend and I had come up with this idea of having this publicly known set of foreign policies that every player, including the AIs, can set that would include a list of things that you consider to be acts of aggression and acts of war. And the difference between the two would be that if somebody violates an act of aggression, you would have a reason to denounce them. You could explicitly cite that stated reason as why you are denouncing them. And if somebody violates something that you consider to be an act of war, that would give you an immediate casus belli to declare war on them, again, for that reason, without having to wait for the 5-turn cooldown for denouncements. And then oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have part of that already from the AI to the human player in Civilization 6, where they denounce you if you have enough of a diplomatic level with them. They will tell you, for example, like, you have just been denounced, and I mean, in some cases it's the stupid, they just plain don't like you, but sometimes it's you're competing for the favor of the same city-states. You broke a promise to them. It would be nice for us to be able to turn around and do that, whether it's one side or the other, for the entire world then to go back to, knowing why it is that you have denounced this person, which could then set the stage for further action down the road. And something that you could also go in, through the user interface, be able to tell, okay, this person denounced this person on this turn for this specific reason. Do I care or do I not care? And if I do care, is that because I think it's a good thing, or I think it's a bad thing?
Right. And so anyway, as I said, a few weeks ago, I had written up this blog post, and I linked to it on the Civ Fanatics forums, and I also put the link down in the topics list comments for this episode of PolyCast. But yeah, the idea basically being that you could have things that you could explicitly say and define are things that you don't want the AI to do and that you would consider a hostile act. And this could be things like I had made up little mock screens of basically another page of the social policies thing, using the social policy cards just as kind of like a proof of concept template kind of thing. But like cards that would say things like, you completed a wonder that we were building, or you denounced one of my friends, or you stationed units too close to my borders. So you would slot those into slots, and if another player or AI violates them, it would give you a reason for denouncement or war. And the AIs, if they are robustly enough programmed, would also be able to see that, and if they want to be friendly with you, could be programmed to try to avoid doing those activities. And if they're actually in a situation where they want to antagonize you, maybe they actively try to do those things just to make you mad and try to provoke you into war. And as an extension to all of that, I had also proposed that you could also set a set of things that you actually do want the AIs to do. So, like, for example, if you're playing as Gandhi and you actually benefit from having other players' religions in your cities, or if you're playing as Congo, you could set a friendly policy that says, hey, bring your missionaries to my city. We welcome them. And then AIs that want to be friendly with you and who want to spread their religion would then know that you're a receptive target for their missionaries and apostles. And, other things like send me a trade route and, stuff like that could also go into those. It'd be kind of like almost the way that the city-states could offer quests to the players. The players could also offer quests to each other in order to gain favor, is the basic idea.
I know in your article you also made comparison to the Civilization Beyond Earth Rising Tide expansion and the communique logs that you would receive from the artificial intelligence while the turn is even going on. As like, right, why are you doing this? Why have you done this? Which included both positive as well as the negative. Just like in your proposal here, it's not just all about the things that can get people upset, and to be able to communicate that up front, say when having met the person, so oh, I know this specific AI is going to respond in this fashion if I do this, but also if I want to try to curry their favor, then I could go and do this, and it would be, I also like tying it specifically to their abilities, for example, and maybe other things that are going on more situationally in the game, but those things that you would absolutely know up front are either going to be good or bad, which I suppose you could then maybe learn more about that over time, or if you increase your relationship level, that you would get to know more about the things that ticked them off or made them like you more.
Right, yeah. Most importantly, just having a way of proactively telling, other players and the AIs, how you would like for them to behave. They don't have to follow it, obviously, because, that would make the game boring if everybody just cooperated. But It's just really frustrating when you have an AI who you have friendly relationships or maybe even an alliance, and you're sending trade routes with each other and you're trading luxuries and stuff like that, and you're declared friends, and then suddenly they, forward settle right in the middle of your cities, Polynesia. And it's like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I can denounce them, but even if I denounce them, like they were my friend and ally, everybody else is going to hate me because I denounced a friend, even though they did something that was clearly, a hostile or unwelcome act. So just having ways of telling the AIs to not do those things would be nice. And I like the idea of there being a finite number of how many of them you can set. So you can't just be like, oh, don't do anything that hurts my progress through the game. You'd actually have to prioritize which are the things that are the most important to you.
I feel like this could even go into even greater minutia. Part of it was, as you were talking about, the hey, you forward settled on me, which I think for the most part somebody would say, well, that wouldn't depend on what civilization you were. You forward settled on them. Even if you are, say, a declared friend, they could still say, hey man, that wasn't cool, and perhaps if you are a declared friend, that would be even worse as if you were neutral. But I could see some really extreme situation, like, oh, hey, this civilization is currently attacking me. I know this is super situational. You go and you place a civ in between, you go and place a city between that civ and another civ that's attacking them, and then they give you a really small diplomatic boost, which is, hey, thank you for providing a buffer zone between myself and this other person. Similarly to perhaps things that you would always associate as an act of a goodwill, which would be, and like in your mock-up image, like sending trade routes to our cities that perhaps, no, you don't like that for, I don't know, whatever the reason could be. But I like that there's the balance between, again, the proactive and the good and the bad. And based on your mock-up image here, you've got the acts of war. You allow the immediate declaration of war with minimum warmonger penalty and minimum war weariness. Acts of aggression, allowing denouncement that is weighted more heavily by the other civilizations. Would the acts of goodwill allow the declaration of friendship that is weighted more heavily by other civilizations? It's not just about being friends, but why you are friends with that person?
Sure. Yeah, I could see stuff like that working. I mean, I don't think that fulfilling those should be a requirement for having a declaration of friendship, obviously, just like I don't think that violating an act of aggression should be a requirement for denouncing. You should still always have the option to just denounce someone because you just don't like them. But it should just be more transparent why the denouncement is happening, in both directions, both denouncing of the AI to the player and from the player to the AI. I think it should work in both directions. But yeah, and I even had proposed the idea of if civilizations that meet your acts of goodwill, you could even have like maybe a reward that you could set for them. Like it could maybe even be part of the act when you set it, or maybe it could be something that you define later. So like, for example, if you are saying, hey, send us a trade route, and then they send you a trade route, maybe that triggers like some bonus where all the trade routes between your civilizations get like a buff or something. So, not only is it, hey, it's going to be a diplomatic bonus, but there's also like an actual like gameplay mechanical incentive for doing this.
So it would require that trigger, just like you talk about certain things, like examples of act that would need to be unlocked, like after researching a particular civic or after researching a particular technology. This would be something that would only happen as a result of the completion of another action. So in that way, it would be a static thing, but you would first have to reach that particular condition in order for it to apply. Would you see
obviously, you shouldn't be saying, hey, don't nuke us, on turn 0, because that's just not possible.
Oh, I thought maybe you shouldn't say that on turn 0 because, hey, maybe you like the glow. But would you envision the possibility that as the game progressed, not simply incidentally, but as a result of your individual relationships with a particular civilization, or maybe even civilizations as a whole, that at one point what was once considered, say, an act of aggression is perhaps now an act of war, or the other way around, or it goes to something that's neutral, or something that might have made them happy earlier on in the game is now going to tick them off?
Right. Well, the mock-ups that I had made were basically using the social policy screen as a template. So using that same model, these would be little cards that you could slot in and out. So yeah, if say early in the game, you really don't want someone declaring war or conquering that city-state next to you because you're their suzerain, then maybe later in the game, so you might set that as an act of war. If someone declares war on that city-state, then you declare war immediately on them, almost like a protectorate war, but without the having to actually research that. But then later in the game, say that city-state did get conquered, or maybe you just lost your suzerain of it. You prioritized other city-states, or someone else, put the diplomat governor in it, and you can't possibly catch up. Now you don't need that to be an act of war anymore. You slot that out, you slot something else in, or you demote it to an act of aggression if you still want to try to become their suzerain.
And this mock-up, yes, that you're talking about on your blog, where we see your policies being broken down into domestic and foreign, would it then be possible for a civilization to react favorably to you depending upon your particular domestic policies?
Yeah, I mean, they already do that for government. So I think that's a little bit harder, though, just because there are so many social policies to do. Like, it just seems like the bonuses for that would be weird, and in a lot of situations, they'd probably just offset each other anyway. But, I mean, it's doable. I mean, they do it for governments.
Very good.
It is a good read.
It's something that could be incorporated into Civilization 6 as well, in part because how you've already tied it into existing mechanics, let alone saying, oh, this is something for Civilization 7. Well, it could be, but we wouldn't have to wait that long necessarily to see something like this. It would just be not just an extension of what we already have, but in some cases kind of, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Because,
and a lot of the things that I had even proposed are actually things that the AI already recognizes. These are things that the AI will already denounce you for, or which will already, trigger a positive or negative diplomatic modifier. So it's just a matter of making it so that the user can define or prioritize which of those are most important to you, and then setting the AI so that not only they recognize it, but they might change their behavior based on whether or not they want to be friendly towards you, or whether or not they're already friendly towards you.
Plus 10, you listen to PolyCast. Minus 10, you listen to PolyCast instead of playing with me. Aww.
That's right. Get wrecked.
It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Come on now.
Yeah. Well, some of the others aren't. Although I think they did patch that out, but it was pretty funny when you had agendas that directly contradicted. That was amusing.
Yeah. They just wanted to make certain that the Civ community was paying attention and cared, Phil. That was their test. Yeah, and they passed their test. Air quotes.
But anyway, there is a Civ Fanatics, thread for this. So, I welcome any listeners. If you've got any ideas, or if you think this is a terrible idea, feel free to, I welcome any feedback that anyone has, either on the Civ Fanatics forum or through comments on the original blog post. Either one works fine.
Or in response to this episode.
Yes, as well. There is a discussion. there will be, when this is posted, a discussion thread for the episode as well. So, feel free if you've got other ideas, or if you think it won't work. Like I said, this was a very brainstormy kind of thing. So there might even be deal breakers for this. And, I imagine that programming the AI to handle this, even though there are a lot of triggers that are already in the game, would still probably be pretty difficult. So I don't know how feasible it would be for Civ 6. But I definitely think that moving forward with the franchise, we need more robust ways of talking to and interacting with the AIs. And I think this is one way that could maybe be accomplished.
When Civilization 7 is multiplayer only, what are you going to do about it?
Well, I mean, a lot of the same things could still apply. You could still give other players quests with actual rewards, so that instead of every game just being a build a bunch of units and conquer everyone else by the medieval era, it's, there actually are reasons to cooperate with one another that are, mechanically reinforced. So it could still work. It wouldn't be as important, because you can still always just open up the chat and tell them, hey, don't settle next to me or I will declare war on you. But you can't do that with the AI. I don't know. Maybe if they just port Siri or Alexa or something over into Civ 6, you can just with speech recognition you can just chat with the AI. Maybe that'll be in Civ 7. I don't know. Who knows? But
Siri, could you not settle so close to me? Thanks.
you're
Sorry,
right.
get wrecked.
Yes. Exactly.
Acknowledging as, will you please settle closer towards me? No, not settle. Settling closer to you. No. Not set.
Now bend over.
No, that's in your special version, Phil.
That takes on connotations that are a little unfortunate there, Mackie.
You hear that
Yeah.
the first time, and you're a little curious, so you start to do that, but then it's like lower. Whoa.
Well, like instead of it's like your own customized Siri that backtalks you is what I mean. You
Okay.
guys love to take everything so far.
Okay. All right. I won't judge you too much.
Well, I know you're judging. I mean, come on.
Just a little bit of judging. Not too much judging.
That doesn't sound like the internet at all.
Nobody's ever judgmental on the internet.
No.
Ever.
Oh,
I
never.
think you mean everybody. At
Oh
some
yeah,
point
that was
or
the word I was
another.
looking for.
Speaking of words we were looking for, we used them all.
Apparently.
I think this just goes to show that first-time guests should always do the introduction to the show, so this doesn't happen. I think that's...
Ah, okay. I get you now. And with that, we will wrap up PolyCast episode number 302. This has been Timothy001, along with regular co-hosts.
Oh, then introduce us one at a time, and then we'll
All
we'll
right,
say
Dan
something.
Q. All right, Dan Q.
I have all of your bonuses.
Makalua.
They tried to make a Siri version of me. You might get sick of it after a while. I'm just saying.
The Mean Team.
Have a good one, everybody.
And Mega Bears.
Warnings are difficult.
Fan.
You sure time zone with Mackie, right? I think.
No, I actually am on Pacific time, so I think I'm
Oh.
an hour even earlier, 1 or 2 hours even earlier than Mackie. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
This-
he's got the
this-
Magin problem.
I
it
see.
started at
I
9
see.
a.m. for me. So I have to get up almost as early as I have to get up for work. Dan, you gave me an extra work day.
Yeah, Dan.
No,
You get a 10%
no.
raise per year. It's
I was about
okay.
to say, it is not an extra workday. You don't get paid for this. Let's not be ridiculous.
Yeah, where's all that sweet Patreon money?
You're doing this as an internship for exposure.
Yes, exactly. Which
That's
is
right.
why Dan lets me plug the blog. So there you go.
I'm also a fan of exposure.
Oh, you'll get paid in exposure. Yeah, fuck you.
Yep.